We'll call the workshop back to order. Thank you for your patience, Richard. It's all yours.
Okay, so what we have in front of you is that infrastructure project list that was brought up a week or two ago, maybe a week ago. This is just basically an appendix to our 10-year economic development strategic plan. Something that we go through every year. What's a little bit different this year is we had some folks on the KCPTA board ask each entity that put in their project to prioritize those projects. This doesn't have any bearing on the ability to obtain funding from state or federal sources. It's just a way for each entity, such as the city of Goldendale, White Salmon, or Bingen, to understand what is the priority for the port of Klickitat. And so for all the taxing jurisdictions to be kind of on the same page on what everyone's priority is. I have marked in red, starting on page 3. I have marked in red just my recommendations that I thought y'all might like, but I'm indifferent to how we number this. Of note is we did have this Columbia Gorge Regional Airport fuel farm that's completed. That can be taken off. Spoke with the airport manager Jeff Bernard after my last update, and he asked to have that taken off. One thing to note about the airport's projects, they had 4 of them. So if we take off the fuel farm, that's been complete. T hangars is going to be done this year, and so is the aviation training and storage hangar. So that leaves the airport down to just one project, which is the airport terminal building design. We still need to mark 1, 2, 3 on these. Of note, speaking with Jeff, is he mentioned the CIP list, and as they move forward with their airport layout plan, that's going to highlight some of the things. And so the list is going to be a lot different next year, but for this year, we just have those 4 projects, or 3 projects if we take out the fuel farm. So my next question, and then moving after that on page 4, we have just 4 Klickitat County projects, which includes broadband, Central Klickitat County Parks and Rec, Trails and Park Development, the Goldendale Pump Storage Project, and the Peterson Street Improvement, which was some road improvements out there in the Alderdale area.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Like you said, no matter how we number them, any of the numbers can be funded first. So
is the location of the fire district 6 moving from where it's currently at?
So the fire district 6, number 6, they only have one project that they put in, which is that fire district. So I just kept it where it's at.
I just meant their project as a whole to be located at the airport. Is it already currently where it's sitting on airport property? I haven't looked at that now.
No, they're looking. So they have a fire station already, but they want a new one.
Okay, and they want to put it on the airport.
Yeah,
and they worked all this out with the airport.
Yeah, they're not very far on.
Okay,
So
just a new idea.
it's been on there for a long time, but they've got some considerable issues.
Okay,
So
it's something for the horizon. Okay.
And it being located on airport property, is that for the advantage just to?
yeah, I'm gonna assume it's with the firefighting assets that take off from the airport.
Yeah, those would be interesting conversations.
So I see here, you're removing the fuel farm 2020. So
aviation storage hangar.
Yeah, that one's being built. That's that Columbia Gorge.
Right, so we're pretty close. Do we have a funding?
What's that? Yeah, all the funding
You have everything
secured. We're going out for bid on that.
Yep.
Just in case, I figured we just leave it on one more year. It's
Okay.
the same thing with the T hangars. They got the grant from majority of the grant from the Oregon State side, but it's not built yet. We haven't put a shovel in the ground, so I figured we just keep it one more year, and then next year we go into that CIP list that the airport's doing.
I would like to request for my education, even though I'm on the airport board, I would like to request that maybe you and Jeff Renard could come in and sometime do a presentation for the commissioners with maps and get it in our heads where exactly all these are located. Who do they actually belong to? Because there's the partnership between city county, there's been grants on the city side, there's been grants. It just gets to be this, and we don't get a lot of updates. So I would like to have a education for us.
And I spent a lot of time with him, with Jeff on Thursday, driving around, looking at the maps. And, he's planning on coming in on Thursday,
This Thursday,
yeah.
okay. Good, so maybe it's already happening, Richard.
Okay.
Well, or maybe, yeah, a little down the road.
Maybe even,
Because I'm trying to set up on Thursday and hopefully another Thursday when Jen is here to run through the budgets, so I kind of set some things aside.
okay, so it might have to be another. Thursday.
Yeah, it may have to be. I'm just trying to. Like Jen here is here, let's
Is he? not
run
on
through the
agenda?
budgets, so we make sure.
Jeff Renard.
So is everything Dalesport removed from this Thursday?
No, Dalport Water's still at 1,
And Jeff was not on the agenda.
not this.
We need to request from Jeff that he has a monthly update with us. He does it for the city, but we've had trouble.
It would just be a good update, because I was looking at the map yesterday in Public Works.
He is currently on. He is on. Okay. Good to know.
Later in the afternoon. Is Jeff?
He's on one. Oh, I think Minnie was on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said on the agenda, I'm like, oh, I missed
No, I'm
something.
sorry. Yeah.
But no, I was just looking at the industrial part side and trying to understand the different things happening, and I still need to get a hold of Jeff, follow up. And go down there and kind of do a tour.
Mhm.
It'd be good for me right now, get a tour and then have come in and then explain it, so. A lot of times I gotta see it, kind of like what you did. Feet on the ground.
No, it's a great future.
Yeah, and everything's moving fast and we just need to make sure that the
So-
planning is done there because.
Yeah.
Some of everything you do takes away revenue and funding from another thing. So what we're about to build, if it's not re-engineered, it's gonna take away $50,000 this year and be a little insecure for our fire safety. Because it's taken away that strip that all those fire aircraft were parked at the last 2 years. And that they pay for. And so it brings money to our county and it brings fire safety.
And we need to have a longer conversation on that, how it came about. I mean, one project's been in the works for 40 years, and then we suddenly had the new fire things come in and we started utilizing a strip that was already dedicated to come.
So we're ready for tomorrow evening's meeting.
Yes,
Evaluation.
I would recommend if it's okay with the county commissioners, we could put the Columbia Gorge Regional Airport Terminal Building at number 1. And the T hangar is number 2, and the aviation storage hangar space at number 3, if y'all are okay with it. I just need a verbal yes or no. Okay, and then I've got on here at number 1, Golden Bell Pump Storage. And then number 2, Parks and Rec Trails and Park Development, number 3, Broadband, number 4, Peterson Street Improvement. Good.
Is that okay with the board on both those?
Say the last one, I was. marking.
Peterson's.
Yeah, Peterson Street Improvement, number 4.
Which is basically Alderdale.
Yeah.
No, I think they're great. Like I said, any one of them can get funded.
Are there things that we need to be adding to that? I mean, I've been trying to.
So with these 4, one of the recommendations I was gonna put would be, at our next KCP meeting in April would be after the 10-year strategic plan update, that to maybe, propose doing it, which is part of the plan in, critical transportation list. for economic development specifically. So there are ideas of doing rail expansion that's been explored out there in the Roosevelt, Alderdale area. There's new rail spur that they're looking at with the port of Klickitat down there in Dallasport. I would argue that if we had a transportation list, we could include Goldendale Airport on that list. On anything that they want to do, they have runway lengthening projects that they want to do. We could put on the Columbia Ward Regional Airport, whatever projects they've got. So within their CIP list, I would argue some of that stuff would having basically a second list would be beneficial. But I think for right now, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
We had some in years past with like fairgrounds, but speaking with Jeff Hunter and everything, we're pretty much good this year with this four. Some of the things, because I brought up broadband, you know, just so everyone's tracking, the county has been engaged with the BEAD process with WSU, and we've been involved with Click Networks out there in the Trout Lake area, as well as Raleigh that came into town about a year or two ago with a large USDA grant loan. So we've been heavily engaged in trying to get folks to come out here, internet service providers, to expand that broadband. Some people here are probably going to argue they still need better internet, so we're still working on that.
We've heard some comment on it between Trout Lake and Stoughton right now, the issues.
Yeah, so one of the main issues, you could do Starlink as you go eastward because you got plenty of line of sight with the satellites, but as you get out there to Trout Lake, anywhere that's really wooded, it's very impeded. So you can't just go I use Starlink at home, and it's fantastic. I don't get what they proposed, which was, you know, as we talk about Starlink, it's 75 megabytes per second. That's what they advertise. I'm closer to about 20 to 25, but all the way up until 2 or 3 years ago, broadband was categorized at 25 megabytes per second, from my understanding. And I think it was the FCC, if I'm not mistaken, upgraded that to 100 megabytes per second, which precludes Starlink from any federal funding. But that's neither here nor there. But you know, the definition changes just because of the amount of data people are using. But I'd say Starlink is pretty good if you live out in the eastern parts. But yeah, we're still working with Click Networks and trying to bring broadband out there. So
No, I'm fine with you.
okay, perfect. Well, that was the big to do. We'll have the KCPTA meeting tomorrow night discussing this project list, as well as the main thing, which is going to be the strategic plan update. So that's all I got.
And everything's been sent out, everybody has it, I see an email.
So this, I need to update this.
Update that.
Yeah, so just with our list, and then I'll resend it out to everybody. One thing I would say is, and this is kind of a side note, not to create a third list, but we did 2 federal, when we talk about these project lists, we have 2 years in a row now, we went for federal requests for the Columbia Gorge Regional Airport. And that was through both Senator Patty Murray and Senator Maria Cantwell's office. You know, they have requests coming down from the state, and there's a bit of a tight time hack on some of this stuff. We were pretty lucky with the federal request because we already had everything scoped out more or less. It might be worthwhile if the commissioners are okay with it as this year proceeds, start trying to look at some things at the state level as those funding priorities change with the new governor, and see what kind of opportunities we have here locally. So I know the cities, they put up their own list, but it's going to be, just from a time hack perspective, it's going to be a little bit difficult this year to do. Basically some, you know, stuff with the smaller communities like Lisle, Wishram, Bickleton, Roosevelt, or, you know, Glenwood, all of these smaller communities, you know, create something that if there's a funding opportunity that comes down from the state, we have something ready to go. So. If there's no other questions, I'll get out of here.
No.
No,
All right, thank you.
thanks, Fred.
That was easy. You got away easy today.
Yeah. And I'll try to follow up with you later on my
Yeah.
morning discussion.
And we have some updated material for you from our morning.
Good, I appreciate that. No, I received the email and a phone call on.
Yeah.
Washington State's capital project lists requesting, so thank you. So I went to Richard and asked if there was anything there, especially asking out of District 3 and what might have been going on. So we made some phone calls.
They have some things for you.
So far, yeah, pretty limited. Cleveland rodeo grandstands. It's just the state, they all send out an email, say, okay. We're updating the capital list, send us something. It's like, oh. I didn't quite realize that, and I received a phone call with some suggestions too on Friday, so. We got a couple minutes here. Kind of run through, I guess is a good time. Attended several different online meetings. Like mentioned, the RTC last week, and then the next day was part of the RTC, and it was on the Klickitat County Transportation. I appreciate Sharon was on, Seth had a lot of involvement. They showed the project in Benjamin White Salmon. Discussion the mayors were on, or the mayor, Marla was on, and then the different communities up Route 142, and the rails and trails, town of Klickitat. Discussion on Wishram, Dallas-Port, Lyle, several different ones. So that one was really interesting, I thought.
The RTC.
Yeah, well, the first one was more, like Jeff said, it was discussion on a lot of what's going on in Clark County.
Right.
And a lot of public input was, what transportation do they really need to be funding or not funding on public comment? Interesting to listen to. Listen to the Skamania Klickitat Development of Disabilities. I sat in on that. Interesting discussion. Brian from Skamania Commissioners joining that board. Actually, I've been on quite a few different meetings with Brian from Skamania, which is good. Yeah,
Build those
and Brian has mentioned it'd be good here in the future when we all kind of get settled in of having a joint Skamania Klickitat meeting. Too. Kind of the different meetings I've been involved with. The PPC was from RTC, which was our Klickitat County Transportation. Which a lot of this is just getting up to speed.
Yeah.
Let's understand what do the different boards do or don't do. A lot of it, if you don't have it on your planning documents, you're not gonna get. That's the bottom line.
And every different one has different acronyms.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to. Really fun.
I know we had the workshop last Thursday. Talking about the fiscal manager position. I thought that was a very productive meeting.
Mhm.
Good input from the auditor, good input from the treasurer. With people that were there.
Yeah.
I thought was very productive.
And
And we're following up on that this afternoon.
I want to just say I'm thankful again for those workshops. We weren't doing them before, inviting other partners in, and having that casual ability to talk to everybody. And just kick around the ideas, what works best. Been a good thing.
Yeah, so like I said, Thursday, I kind of changed some of the slate around. So we could basically focus on the budget. In the morning. And then if we want to continue later in the afternoon, we could do that too, it's whatever you guys desire. My goal was, since we set that as a goal, focus somewhat on the budget, let's try to do our next couple workshops on the budget before Jan leaves. Was kind of my thought process. So feel free to give input and
I know
like to see something.
there's a learning curve with the budget, and that's perpetual, that'll never go away, but it changes all the time. What's your end goal for? Where are you heading? So that you know when you want to start making decisions. For me, coming into the county, I felt like we needed strategic planning. We needed to know where we're going 50 years from now. We needed to look at each department and say, is our staff all headed in that right direction for what we think the direction the county should be? And the more we look at the budget, the more I say, okay, each department. So I just come back around again to maybe we should. And I'm not saying hire a consultant, go full blown, create a strategic plan, but maybe there should be some discussion as we go through budgets. How does that fit into what we look like for the future? How do we look at all the departments and say, are we fulfilling what we have to provide to the public? Do we need to expand? Just the idea of strategic plan.
Yeah, I've heard the term, you know, long range.
Can't spend money unless you know where you're going.
Well,
You shouldn't.
and mine is making sure, one, my discussion was earlier, or last week was, what are mandatory services we need to have or not have? Mine then is revenue, with some of our revenue, especially at the landfill, is less. What do we really have or don't have? And more of, like you said, long range. It's a lot easier when you know you have different revenue sources or funds will be coming in where you can fund needed.
A lot more fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't like. I mean,
I just wanted to know how you guys feel, where you think you will go. If you're getting a sense of the picture of what it looks like for you.
You know, every week I'm like, oh, next week I'll
You'll
kind
get
of,
it.
I'll kind of have, but,
That one out.
and that's the scariest thing for me is that we're not that big of a county. The dollars are pretty small but there's basically, because we had the landfill, the budget has just ballooned, you know, our spending is kind of ballooned to meet our income. And everything wasn't put through kind of a thought process. It wasn't needed to be like, okay, if we're going to do this, where are we going to be in 5 years? That's strategic. And so you see that with IT, you know, and then you talk to everybody like, well, it's necessary. And it's like, well, you know, as you implement these things, you have to look down the road like, oh, how is this helping us? How is it meeting a need, you know, and basically every decision has been put in like, well, we don't see any other way, so let's do it, and we have the money. And so and I, you know, and so that kind of that leaves us with some tough decisions, I think,
Yeah.
for the next few years. And then if we're smart in these 3 years, then the decisions moving forward will be wonderful. But
yeah, I just thought I'd express to you that I kind of like, let's focus on this for next couple workshops on financial. My Jen is here and
That works for me.
I'm hoping once I get to that point, I am just saying, the county's gone through some financial woes on the landfill, and what's that look like in the future? I mean, we'll know that more when we meet with
Everything's
Republic.
costs have gone up. Everything's changing.
And a lot of it, there's a lot of moving parts. I mean, as easy as the budget. I believe the number I seen from Jen the other day was out of a $67 million budget. 34 million or 37 millions grants, federal and state funding. Of that, so that's, you're talking half the budget.
And if all that changes.
Yeah, which, I mean, it was good
We
to
don't
get
know.
that number so we could see what could affect us or not affect us. And I mean, we could all have a plan. And then things gonna change, could
Yeah.
change in 6 months, and so
Good luck.
what are the primary things we need to do or not do? That's kind of what my goal is there. And then two, it's looking at. There's multiple needs, from multiple departments, and how do you manage that or go through that?
Yeah.
Not that we may have the answers or not,
No, but
I don't know if you ever do.
it's good to be heading in the same direction. We didn't have these conversations.
I think it's good to have conversations. Like last week, we had some good conversations. Especially Thursday was good. And allowed people to give their input.
And I was surprised on the list that Jen created of what the mandatory list was. Wasn't very big, but it was just crucial items. Which when we start considering that and saying, okay, these are healthy and they're functioning and they're where they need to be, then that leaves a lot of conversation about everything.
Oh, that's,
I think there's a lot of things that the public would like to think are mandatory.
Right.
well, there's different, projects and we offer some good services, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's wants and there's needs and
It's-
it doesn't mean those
Much.
wants are really important and. But
Jen, do you wanna? Or we can hear you.
What time is it? Downstairs.
It's at noon.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then that list on the services provided, that was a very, I just want to caution, that's very basic. At a very high level. Now, there may be services that we have that are optional at face value, but because we take X, Y, or Z funding or have this system in place, they might be a necessity to that. So I didn't dive into that level, I just wanted to caution you guys when you're looking at that. And of course, that's not the list of all of our services either.
no, I appreciate a lot of that. I mean, as simple as some of the documentation on. It was good to see the cities and the total amount they pay and what they're paying on. And the taxes we receive. No, it is good. And then you see these other items like the STP funds, it's like, oh. Okay, I know about that. Educational.
yeah,
So, yeah, we do have a lunch meeting. All better together. Well, we'll be there 12:20, 12:55. Don't move on without us, we have. KCP tomorrow night.
I just want, for clarification purposes, you wanted Jeff Renard from the airport to come in front of the commissioners to give reports monthly? Is that
That was a conversation.
Yeah,
So,
I think we'll have to follow up on that
Yeah.
discussion, whether it needs to be monthly or.
we just need to, we did this last year too, we talked about. We just need to get those set. There's a lot that goes on, a lot of money that's been spent, and it's a big asset. And we just need to have access to a regular update. All three together too, so that we don't have fractured information.
right. And that, so just have him come for us once a month on Tuesdays.
Yeah, or every other month,
Yeah,
or every other month or something. I don't know, every month. is-
Right.
Or that be,
there's a lot going on with projects, updates. It's good to have everybody in the same room.
Yeah.
But we'll work through that and see what his time frame is.
Yeah,
What we
yeah,
think we need.
that's what I'm saying.
Can be a lot
He
of
has
stuff.
raised his hand.
Oh.
Yeah. Please chime in.
Commissioners,
Morning.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to make everything work here. I'm trying to turn the camera on, but maybe that doesn't work.
It's okay.
You guys let me know, what you would like as far as a report and just the specifics. Typically the only report I've given, even with the city, is at our airport board meeting. And then hope that gets disseminated back through the counselors and the commissioners. But I'm more than happy to come up and do an update monthly or every other month, whatever, as the projects go forward and as we have different stuff. We're going to go into our master plan very soon, and that is going to be a huge amount of input from everybody involved, the community, the owners, the airport, and just looking at historical data and what we see as predictions for the aviation world.
I have a question, Jeff. In the car on the run, I heard a quick note that there was on the City of the Dalles last night agenda. Was there a report last night to City of the Dalles?
No, the same thing you guys voted on last week on your consent agenda last week. It was the only report I gave was the request for council to approve the recommendation for the engineer of record, Precision Approach. We had the RFQ out and you guys had it on your consent agenda last week.
Okay,
So I notified Precision Approach this morning that they will be awarded that professional services agreement, and we will have an engineer, and then we can start actually working on our RFP for the master plan and continue our projects with the FAA.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. All right. Probably just talk about different meetings. This evening, I'm going to High Prairie. To a meeting at 6, and then like I said, we have the KCPTA tomorrow evening, and Thursday, I might try to get down to Dalsport community meeting. They're talking about cleanup.
Yeah.
I just want to listen in on that because that's one
I
of
think-
our future things we're gonna be talking
I think
about.
George was invited.
Yes, I see that on their agenda.
And I'll be there.
Just want to listen in.
Trying to get back on a regular schedule.
Is there such a thing called a regular schedule? Yeah.
No, it actually feels good. I think fall was just, I don't know if it was because it was an election or what happened. It was just a hurricane. This fall. And I woke up in January and you guys were here. It's good.
I think I missed where I remember. Any more discussion or anything
No,
else the commissioner would like to bring up?
last week we had the Trout Lake Community Meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And they're moving forward, had some great questions, and then next month, me and Jeff Hunter will be going to that in person. We're on the agenda. So I think a lot of that has to do with the park there. We had the mechanic executive meeting last Wednesday. And lots of good projects going on as far as affordable housing. I think 130 130 or 140 home project starting in Rand Road, the river. So. And then learning about all the different affordable housing projects that are there for, you know, and some of them are, people can get a voucher. And then they can go deal with someone privately or whatever, and then have to only pay 30% of whatever their income is for the housing, because that's what they've structured, is that's what someone should be spending to be proportionately healthy fiscally. And then some of the projects, it's only for a specific development or area that depending on your income level and things like that, size of the family. But I think there's roughly after this, I think there'll be 700 units in the gorge, in the Dalles, in the river, and White Salmon. And I don't think those cover.
Is there
I
a
don't know if that
project?
covers HUD or if HUD is included in that, or if that's separate.
Is there a current project in White Salmon to add to those numbers?
The current the project, and I don't know when it will start, but the land is purchased by White Salmon. There's 10 lots that will be included in that. That will be available rather than affordable like rentals. Those are going to be for home ownership, where they basically try to build them as affordably as possible, and then people can pay for it. But they basically, if property just balloons, you know, cost, they won't receive, you know, like what's happened in White Salmon. It's doubled every few years, and so they won't be able to have this massive asset, but it helps them get into home ownership. And then and we haven't gone over it. I don't think they figured out the calculation as far as how much it can appreciate or something like that, but.
Whatever happened, and I know you're new to that board, and I was on the Columbia Gorge Housing, and then it had a transition themselves, so things lulled for a while. What happened with the senior center? Do you know, can you check on that through them and bring us an update? There was a lot of people very interested in that. And we hit the pike on a piece of funding and we lost a piece of funding. They came back around and tried again. And then we kind of got lost in the mix of their transition.
I think that's gonna be,
The housing now.
well, what you, for the, in Bingen on the Quesapita, that's one of theirs. I think that's gonna be a community center. You know, part senior. That's their #1 project. That's gonna be down there, right across from the park.
This was up by the high school. And it was a dedicated piece of land that was.
That's gonna be part of the pool and everything, right?
No, it was actually a senior living facility.
Oh, okay, senior, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
And I have not heard a peep about it for a while,
and I don't know if that's one of
even still moving.
yeah. I'll check. I
I would hope.
I know it's been mentioned, but I just learning about. I'm putting together a map of all the different little housing things that are
Okay,
going on.
we just haven't had an update from anybody on that for a long time. I don't know if it fell off the cliff, didn't make it, or
Yeah,
just too bad.
I know it was spoke of, but I can't remember
Okay.
if it's paused or if it's moving forward.
Because I think they hit a time frame too, that if they hadn't gotten matching funds, they may have had to give their money back. I never.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Motion recess for lunch.
Phone calls I can go do first, so that's great. I'll make a motion to recess for lunch.
Second motion.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
I
Aye, motion carries. So I'll see everybody back at 1 o'clock for regular meeting. Good afternoon. It's now the hour 1 o'clock. I call the Board of County Commissioners meeting for February 11th, 2025 to order. First time of business is roll call. All commissioners are present. Lori, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, next item. Approval of our business agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for approval of the business agenda. I make a motion for approval of the business agenda.
Okay, it's been.
I second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion for the approval of the commissioner meeting minutes January 28th, 2025 as presented.
Second the motion.
Okay, been moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next item is item number 8, public comment. This is time for the public to provide comment. If you're in person, please come forward when you're recognized. Or if you're online, you have to be unmuted. You're given 3 minutes for public comment. Would anybody in the room like to speak to start with? Okay, we'll go to online. Roger.
Yes, sir. And a couple of questions here. I noticed that as of this morning, you decided to shift a bit on your workshop on Thursday and do more emphasis on finance as long as Jen is here. How long is she going to be here as A? And B is, I'm not sure how much you can do this far away from the budget time. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you have to wait for the third and fourth quarter and all that results to the budget, but I'm hoping that she can help you as much as possible. Also, looking for any update on what's happening at the Dellsport Water. I see that you're going to have some discussion with those folks as well. Thanks so much. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Raj. No, I know as of last week, we had received a 1-month notice. The main goal with the budget is for us basically, I believe, to get educated on the budget. Are we changing the budget? I don't foresee that the goal is to change the budget. It's getting educated on the budget. Okay. Thank you. Okay, would anybody in the room like to speak? Okay, hearing, not seeing any at this time. Anybody online? Okay. You're on.
Good. Hello, how are you guys?
Good.
Good. Okay, I wrote it down, so I'll stay on topic. Okay, I'm speaking to you as a concerned citizen who cares deeply about the safety and well-being of our community. Our probation department plays a vital role in keeping our county safe while helping individuals turn their lives around. However, the department is currently overwhelmed, and without immediate action, critical services could be lost. Services that many of our citizens rely on to stay on the right path. This is an urgent matter. The department is stretched far too thin, and the officer and case manager simply do not have the capacity to effectively manage the growing caseload. Without another case manager, probationers will not receive the supervision, guidance, and resources they need. This will lead to more people falling through the cracks, increasing the likelihood of reoffending and putting a greater burden on our jails, law enforcement, and court system. I understand that the budget discussions take time, But this department cannot afford to wait 3 months for the new commissioners to settle in and work through the budget process. Every day that passes without additional support puts our community at greater risk. The longer we delay, the harder it will be to maintain public safety and provide meaningful rehabilitation. I urge you guys to act now. Please prioritize the immediate hiring of an additional case manager to ensure that the probation department can continue its essential work. Delaying this decision will not only harm those on probation, but will also have long-term consequences for our entire county. Thank you for your time and for taking swift action on this pressing issue. And that's it.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody sitting would like to speak? Okay, is there anyone online at this time?
Do you have your mic on?
Yes, ma'am. Do I need to get a little closer?
You have a soft voice.
I like to sit back a little so the commissioners can see.
Or you can pull the mic over.
Yeah. Okay, anybody? Oh, yes, please, come forward.
He tries to be honest.
I knew I was gonna shame him.
How are you? It's nice seeing all the commissioners laughing. Andrew Smith, Klickitat County. And thank goodness for that special meeting we had on Thursday. I think that was the most enlightening meeting I've ever seen, despite, you know, pros and cons. But everybody was communicating like that. And if anybody missed out on that, it was a delightful, informative meeting. I didn't realize how important this individual is leaving out the door. Hopefully we can find a replacement internally, externally, hopefully internally, I hope. About probation, well, hopefully we can move forward. Hopefully we got a little funding for that, so we can move forward on that, so we can take care of it. Hopefully, you don't have to respond to any of this. I appreciate it. Other than that, see you tonight, Ron.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. I also will state, I thought it was a very good meeting, good communication last Thursday. People seemed more at ease to speak. I thought it was good communication with the auditor, the treasurer, and other people at the meeting.
Yeah,
Thank
I was gonna have Andrew chime in about what he thought, because we're getting a little flack for transparency, and I wanted to put a pause on moving those things, but having those meetings with staff, not on Zoom, where they feel comfortable to talk about things and we're not making any decisions. You know, when you're talking about hiring or firing or inter-staff relationships, that we're trying on both fronts. On Tuesday to be fully available, zoomed out to the world when we're making decisions, when we're talking about them, having those. But then on Thursday, just like we don't have cameras in our face on Mondays and Wednesdays, and you know, we go and we work on all these problems, and then we bring them before. I want as many people to be, as so few people can be 100% available all day Tuesday, all day Thursday, and so you have all these people spending a lot of time and not getting a lot of information. So our goal was to work with staff, build those relationships, and then talk to the people on Tuesday about like, hey, we uncovered some things. We found some possible savings. And so, and I wonder what your comment, I mean, are we doing anything? Are we deciding anything, doing anything nefarious?
No, I like how all the department heads are going, elected officials, how they're talking. It's amazing how comfortable the room is. It is. And everybody, like Ron says, it's pros and cons. Agree to disagree, but everybody's speaking their piece. There's been freedom of talking. And I do enjoy that in those meetings. A lot of freedom. And everybody says what's on their mind.
Yeah.
And I will not give any more details on that, but it moves forward.
No, and I'm trying to leave a little flexibility too here. But Commissioner has a question, or somebody who's made a comment or a question to somebody. I want to be flexible. I understand we have 3-minute time. But I want to be flexible if people have Q&A too.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone online that would like to speak? Okay, not seeing anyone at this time. Anyone else in the room would like to speak? I'll go back to online. Yeah, Gabrielle, please.
Hi, thank you so much. I have a call coming in tomorrow from Representative Waters to talk about childcare and how to address it as infrastructure, which actually on his Olympia website, Representative Waters makes a point to say that infrastructure is important. And I think we as a county need to and have needed to address childcare as economic development. I also feel that that has to get in the next economic development 10-year plan that gets orchestrated in the next couple of years, that you actually have a section about childcare and you address it in ways in which businesses are allowed to grow and people are retained as workers, families can function and have their home and mortgages paid for, their rent paid for, they're allowed to work, people that want to work can work. And it's important. I apologize, my dog is happy. And so it's important that you start being serious about childcare and talking about it in a meaningful way and moving in directions in which we're finding solutions. And the other thing is, I look forward to your input as commissioners on how you're going to do this as well, or how you're going to address the childcare desert that is Klickitat County. So I appreciate your time, and I look forward to more conversations. And I also look forward to you coming to see the people. I agree about being old-fashioned and wanting to see people in front of you. The problem is the distance in Klickitat County is large, which is why Zoom has been the great equalizer. And it's also important for you as county commissioners to come to us and to come into our communities and start getting feedback on what is needed on the ground for the different communities that you serve. And you know, the discussions, fair enough, it's important for people to feel comfortable and for people to do what they need to do and speak their minds freely. But the reality is that those that can get to that meeting on Thursday have it available to them because they're in the vicinity and they have the time to do that. And for the rest of the community, it's a different scenario. And so it is that it's the part of transparency in which all of us can participate. And that's what I want to say to that. Thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to speaking to you commissioners about childcare. So you have my number, call me. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to tell Gabe that it is on our economic development sheet. Youth and early childcare is on there and was talked about last, I guess, almost 2 weeks ago. And we probably talked about it a little bit tomorrow night.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else in the room like to speak? Anybody else online? I'll ask for the last time.
7211.
Okay, sure. So,
Greg Wagner with C.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about the energy overlay zone and how it's detrimental to the county and to the people that live in this county. The energy overlay zone permits wind and solar outright in 2/3 of our county. Doesn't have to go through the conditional use permit process, as does anybody else who lives within the energy overlay zone. If a citizen wants to use their land for something it's not zoned for, they must go and ask for a conditional use permit, be reviewed by the Board of Adjustments, and then issued a conditional use permit. Wind and solar doesn't have to go through that same process. That's unfair to the citizens in this county. Everything needs to be fair and equitable in this county and not let these major foreign corporations come in our county and abuse us. According to Scott Edelman last week, 6 or 7 new solar projects are in the works for our county. And as long as the energy overlay zone is in place, we're going to see more and more of this. Our only hope is that Trump stops all the money, but we can't count on that. Our county's already 601 wind turbines, the largest solar site in the state, and Bluebird, another 1,600 acres of solar. We've done our share for this so-called green energy. It's all useless. It does nothing. It does nothing but hurt our county. And when these corporations who own these wind turbines and solar sites have made all the money they want to make, they're going to leave. And they're not going to clean up the mess. The county's model decommissioning plan is useless. It doesn't protect the county. There's no money set aside anywhere in an escrow account in the county's name that guarantees we'll have money to clean this mess up. This mess of wind and solar will end up like the Klickitat County sawmill, where you repossess the land and now we're finding toxins in the land. And I guess we, the citizens, are going to have to pay for that mess. So this is just a future problem for this county that I've been talking about for 3 years, and none of the commissioners have ever taken action on it. We got 2 new commissioners. I'd like to know what you men are going to do about it. It's time that this board, at least 2 of you, step up and protect the people of this county. The battery energy storage ordinance, that's pretty much useless too, because Mochi Lindblad at the Lund Hill solar site permitted battery energy storage there, which sets a precedent. If you'll remember, when Carriger wanted their franchise agreement, they said that the county had given Avangrid, Lund Hill, Bluebird, and Avista a franchise agreement, and that set a precedent, and they wanted one, and they got one even though it was done illegally. So that's what Carriger and any of these 6 or 7 other sites, solar projects, will say. You gave them what they wanted, you got to give us what we want, and that's battery energy storage. So all around Goldendale is going to be a whole bunch of battery sites. And you know what happened at Moss Landing in California? They had ordinances. Those ordinances didn't protect the people of Monterey County. So it's time for these commissioners to step up.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, does anybody in the room like to speak? Anyone else online?
4901.
4901.
Hi, good evening, good afternoon. This is Sherry in Houston. And I haven't been listening for the last couple weeks or whatever, and I don't think I heard all of Greg because I just got on the line. What I guess I wanted to say is I read an article about how the state of Washington, the Department of Commerce, can't access the renewable energy money any longer, that the porthole for access to the grant money has been closed, as I chuckle under my breath. So now that the DOC, Department of Commerce, most likely won't be able to fulfill the grant that they proposed to give Klickitat County to write ordinances for solar and battery storage, what's our county going to do? How are you going to write good ordinances and have a, committee and do everything you were promised money to do if the state can't give you that money to do that? So it looks like this little green energy scam could be coming to an end. And if the money's not there, well, maybe the bribe money won't be there anymore. Maybe we won't have to go through this. And that's my only hope. And that's the only reason I'm calling in, is that I do have hope that maybe some of these scams on the people and our tax dollars and what we do with our land for future generations to come, and we protect our land. We don't leave it destroyed for our children and our grandchildren. And so hopefully with the money ending, the funding ending, the bribe money can end, and hopefully none of this stuff will continue in this county for future generations to have to clean up. And hopefully you decision makers, you public servants in place will have a moral character and do right unto this county, at least, that you have decision control over, and not let it be destroyed by useless green energy scams. And I guess that's all I have to say, that I'm really happy to hear that the money is going to stop for this, and maybe there's hope for our future and our children's future. So hopefully you'll make good moral decisions as the days come. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Sherry. Is there anybody else in the room or online like to speak? I'll ask one more time. I'll at this time close public comment. Any commissioners have a comment?
Yeah, since Greg and Sherry's were both kind of on green energy and solar, I'll chime in on those. To answer Sherry, we are funded, so the board working on solar and battery energy storage is moving forward. And so the 5 more meetings, and that's made up of citizens from all over the county. And they are really focused on protecting our county and doing what's best for our county from all walks of life. So I'm unfortunate. Yeah, the EOZ was short-sighted. I don't think our county saw solar coming in like it has. And so the EOZ was set up kind of for turbines. And so this county needs to look 10, 15 years into the future and make some of these decisions, so we're not surprised by some of these things. So I really have hope and faith that board will make some really great decisions and help protect our county and put things in, make sure energy and solar goes in the correct places and not the wrong places.
Good.
Yeah, no, I think we have a committee, they're moving forward, and I think it's quite a diverse group. Looking forward to see what,
Yeah,
Oh,
good
we get.
backgrounds. Mhm.
yeah, it's not leaning to any one direction, I don't think. All right, we have 8 minutes before bid opening. Is there anything on the consent agenda?
Would you like a motion?
Sure, if you'd like.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda. I don't see how many items.
8 AM. Yeah, it's,
I have to count them.
And
13 items.
12, 13 items.
Okay, is there a second?
And I'm looking at potentially removing one thing. So
Okay,
second it
So-
with discussion.
so, okay. Sure. It's been moved second with discussion. Yes, please. Would you like to remove an item off and then have a discussion?
Yeah, just the interlocal agreement between Klickitat County and Bingen, because I'd like to look at the white salmon and the Goldendale. And those.
Yeah, so a friendly amendments, remove item I off the consent.
Yeah.
Okay, are you okay with that?
Yes, I can agree with that.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Then we'll vote on the main motion as amended then, with a friendly amendment. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Okay. Item I on the interlocal agreement. Yeah, I'd mentioned that to the mayor of Goldendale. That we're waiting for their signature of their contract back.
And,
He was not aware of that.
and I'll make sure and chime in and call the mayor of Bingen. So
Okay, thank you.
actually, is anyone from Bingen on here? So that's not misconceived that.
Right.
We don't want to.
Oh, no.
I just want to look at the whole thing as a whole, and I think we're a week or two away from that.
Go forward with them all together before we move. Forward. I think that's a good idea. I think the documents are all the same. What I understand.
So you want to just set on it a week and see what, if we get the other cities.
Yeah, wait for the other cities, and as we're having our budget meetings to review those and.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting in the discussion today, the funds that we return back to the city. I don't even think the cities. All
We're aware.
are understanding that.
Yeah, no, I think some great conversations to be had, because I think we have a great working relationship. I think it broke down a little under COVID, like all cities and counties did, but working with them and deciding what's best, whether we're providing the services or they are, and how to be fiscally responsible.
I'm okay. In theory, I hate to hold the city of Benton up if the other cities don't get that back to us, but I'm okay with setting it another week.
Okay.
That's great. if
Yeah.
You're okay with that.
No,
Yeah, because I just mentioned, like I said, to Mayor Jones downstairs, that where's your contract? And he wasn't aware, so that's a good thing.
yeah,
I'm good. Okay, what else?
Payroll,
That would be good to go too.
you have that.
Yeah, let me see. Different one? So, Mr. Chairman. I would make a motion to approve the account payable warrants in the amount of $264,481.56. And the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $904,682.85 for the date ending February 10th, 2025.
Okay, it's been moved.
I second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right. I think we got a couple minutes here. Is there any other comments the commissioners have before 1:30 for the bid opening?
Don't have anything.
Well, just got a couple minutes here.
Then Jeff will bring those in
Yeah,
or someone.
yeah, right at 1:30.
Oh.
Jeff or Rick?
I didn't see him sneak in.
Everybody to shake.
Really?
We'll wait until 1:30.
I'll pass him the.
Yeah, are you okay with opening those?
Yeah. Yeah. You just have to look for the bond and announce that it's there. Yeah, we're gonna put him to the fire this time, and there's 6 of them. If you don't want to, I'm fine, but
No, this is,
no harm, no foul.
it's a world.
Okay,
Watch.
usually you can look for it fairly easy because it has a stamp, an embossed stamp. So it's easier to find that way.
Gave him the directions, so you have to pay.
Oh, good, he's got all, everything he needs, okay.
Okay, it's now the hour of 1:30. We have bid openings. We received 6 bids. And the first bid that's being opened is
Klickitat County Public Works. No, here we go.
okay,
Wolford Excavating.
all right. First thing, is there a bid phone present?
There is a bid bond present.
The amount?
Or is it on the bid bond? The amount's not.
It's not that one.
It's at page 8. Oh, so I need to see
On the
if
signature page.
the addendums 1 or 2 are acknowledged.
Yes.
Oh.
We didn't put that on it.
I
Sorry,
didn't
Ron.
see the
No,
addendum
we
on
missed
here.
it. It's on us. It's on the instruction sheet, but we didn't put it on here.
It's addendum 1 and
1 and 2.
1 and 2
So it'll be on, sheet 8.
on sheet 8. Is there addendum? Notice of addendum?
Yes. Halfway through the sheet.
Oh, way to give him the complicated.
Right.
We're just trying to stay with, it's always been that, you know.
They're not numbered. So
Why does one of the staff come up,
I'll.
please? To get him started.
Sheet 8. Right here. It'll have a 1 and a 2 there.
okay,
It doesn't have a 1 and a 2.
all right.
That's 1 and
Okay.
2, then you.
1
So
and
does
2 are
it-
acknowledged.
Okay, addendums acknowledged.
And then I just read the total bid.
Yeah, just total.
Total bid price is $2,274,590.61. Back in.
Yeah.
They can keep them.
Yeah. Well, need to go back to staff review. Yeah, and I can put them back in for you, if that helps.
All right, bid number 2 is from Midway Underground. We have a bid bond present.
End of 1, end of 2.
And addendum 1 and 2 are on there.
Okay.
Their bid is for the total amount, $2,701,614.84.
Can you repeat that?
$2,701,614.84. Lori's quicker at this than me. Got 2 years of practice.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it the way Johnny Carson used to open the letters. And bid number 3 is from Thompson's Brothers Excavating. And we have a bid bond present. And addendum number 1 and 2. It's on there. And their total bid price is $3,358,870.83. Is it rare to have this many?
No, this is probably maybe even a little low for a project. I'd like purchase and
And bid number 4 is from James Dean Construction. We have a bid bond. Present. And addendum number 1 and 2 included. And their bid price is $2,418,351.18. Bid number 5 is from Crestline Construction. We do have a bond present. And addendum number 1 and 2 are included. And Crestline Construction's bid price, $2,270,000. Gonna get a second opinion on the number here. Is that 4 or 9?
Looks to me like 426, but
it looks different than their other.
yeah, but staff's gonna have to
We'll do the math.
review that, whether it's a 9 or a 4.
Yeah, whatever their math comes
So that
out.
would have been,
All right, $2,270,426.05.
have to verify if that's a 4
Or
or
it
a
could,
6.
or or could be 926. Crestline Construction. Final bid. Strider Construction Company. We have proposed bond included. And addendum number 1 and 2. And total bid price $2,508,154.74.
Okay, for a motion, give you bid back to staff now, review it and bring it back.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to return the bids to staff and come back to the recommendation.
I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for breaking Todd in.
Good bid. Very good bid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Became close. All right.
Especially compared to,
Some stuff for you.
yeah, I gotta come see after this. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda. Stephanie? Thank you for being patient.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having us very last minute. We have two people on Zoom that can help me answer questions. There's one of them, Sandra Yonker. She is our Regional Wildlife Program Manager for the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. And then Mike Ritter. Hopefully he's there.
He is listed as there, but maybe not. Anyways, good afternoon, commissioners. Thanks for having us as well. I really appreciate it. And I'll be doing the slideshow for Stephanie. So whenever it's appropriate for me to share, please let me know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, whenever it works for you.
Okay, great.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners, for having us. My name is Stephanie Berg. I am a district wildlife biologist for the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. My office is in White Salmon, and I cover Clark, Skamania, and Klickitat counties. And we're here today to show you a proposal for a conservation easement out by Bickleton, by Pine Creek. You can go to the next slide. So our proposal has basically two parts to it. The first one is to use mitigation funds from the Lund Hill Solar Project that are held by the county to contribute to a conservation easement on a property south of Bickleton on Pine Creek. And the second part of that proposal is to use these mitigation funds as a match for a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant that requires a one-to-one match. Okay, next slide. I know this is a lot of text, but so kind of as that the first part of that proposal, basically on February 11th, 2020, there was a filing from Avangrid Renewables to the Klickitat County Planning Department to give $300,000 in mitigation funding for that Lund Hill Solar. That was one part of the mitigation. And I believe that's attached to the documents for this agenda item if you want to review that. But the letter says the county is to deploy the mitigation funds as it sees fit. So we're coming to you with this proposal about an approximately 4,000 acre property south of Bickleton and to the north of the Lund Hill Solar Project that we have identified for a conservation easement. The conservation easement will prevent any future development on the property, as well as protect the conservation values of the property. And that would be a perpetual conservation easement. The conservation easement will be held and monitored by our agency. It will be monitored annually by staff in our real estate division. So this is a kind of an overview map. And it shows you all the parcels that make up that approximately 4,000 acres. And you'll see Bickleton just to the north, the Lund Hill Solar Project to the south, as well as the Roosevelt landfill. So this 4,000 acres provides habitat for deer and other species of concern. This project would also provide protection of Oregon white oak habitat. And it would provide a barrier-free area for movement by wildlife. It's not currently grazed or farmed. It has 36 wind turbines and the lease for those expires in 2050. We have not done an appraisal yet of this property. Okay, next slide. Just some photos.
How many turbines did you say?
36. You want to go back one slide, Sandra? The first picture there just shows the canyon. And I wanted to point out that some of the property was burned in the 2024 Bighorn fire. A lot of that was oak, and so it should come back nicely. And then the next picture just shows Pine Creek itself. And the day I was there, I was following some deer tracks, so I wanted to put that picture in there. And then the next slide will show you more of the flat areas surrounding the canyon with a bunch of native shrubs and forbs that provide forage for wildlife. And also a photo of Oregon white oaks and junipers in that area. Next slide. So the second part of this proposal and why we're here specifically today is that we would like to apply for a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant, and that requires a 1-to-1 match. The grant is called the Western Big Game Seasonal Habitat and Migration Corridors Fund. So it's focused on big game like deer. And one of the priorities in that grant is implementing measures such as conservation easements and management agreements or other actions to protect bottlenecks within corridors or other areas within priority habitat or stopover areas that are threatened by fragmentation. So we feel that this project fits that priority for that grant program. The property area is within a migration corridor that we mapped using GPS collar data from deer. That project was funded by a Secretary of the Interior Order 3362 that was focused on big game migration corridors, identifying wintering areas, things like that. And this grant is for areas that have been prioritized as a result of those secretarial order funds. So basically, we put collars on mule deer, got a lot of information on where they go, where they're migrating, etc. in the county. And now the next step in that is to protect these areas that the mule deer are using. So the grant application is due on Thursday. And we're looking for a letter of support to use the Lund Hill Solar Mitigation money as matching funds for this grant. And the next slide is showing you on the left there, the project area that we've been talking about is in red. And the light gray kind of blobs are the migration corridors that we've mapped using those GPS collars on the deer. And then the darker black polygons there are stopover sites. So those are places that the deer will stop and use kind of on their way to and from their migration. So you can see that the project area is really well within that migration corridor. And that the Pine Creek drainage, which is highlighted in blue, is a really important movement area for the mule deer. They definitely during the winter, especially now and probably coming up this weekend with our big snowstorm, will migrate down into lower elevations that are free of snow along the Columbia River. And then spend their time up closer to Bickleton, where things stay greener longer during the summer. And then the picture of, the map on the right shows the project area again in red. To the left there is in purple is the proposed Bluebird solar project. And then below that in yellow is the Lund Hill solar project, which is already constructed. And then farther down is the Roosevelt Regional Landfill. So just pointing out that there are some barriers to movement already for deer and other wildlife. And this project, we would work to have a barrier-free area there in red where the mule deer can migrate kind of north-south along that elevational gradient.
And it follow, that's Pine Creek that it follows,
Yes.
then the creek to the left that it almost touches.
To the left, that's Wood Gulch. Is that where
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we found through our research that especially as you go east, that these drainages are really key for mule deer. They're using them to travel up and down. And maybe not as much towards the west, but yeah, in the eastern part of the county, definitely, and Pine Creek especially.
And you're purchasing these properties from several private landowners or just one? Or?
This is just one landowner. Yeah, I did not make that clear. This is one landowner.
And it's just a conservation
And it's a
easement.
conservation
It's
easement.
not the purchase of the property, it's just the conservation easement.
Yeah,
right?
it's a purchase of the development rights.
Yes.
Yes, so the landowner would still live there. And they would kind of continue going about not farming and ranching. They live out there and hunt out there. So, yeah. Okay, next slide. So this is really the first phase of this project. A conservation easement would be purchased on approximately 1,000 of the 4,000 acres using the mitigation funds and the grant funding if we were to receive the grant. So the mitigation funding would solely be used for the conservation easement land value, whereas our grant proposal also includes real estate costs like closing costs, the appraisal, which of course we need to do, and due diligence activities, etc. Next slide. So the next steps are asking for a letter of support for the project to be used for that National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant application and for future grant applications. The grant notification for the grant that I've been talking about would be in May 2025. And if we did receive it, hopefully we'd be able to fund and schedule that appraisal in early fall of 2025. And then we, at the same time, will be pursuing additional funding for the remaining acreage. And lastly, we would ask that you consider the use of additional mitigation funds from upcoming development projects for this conservation easement project. And that's what I have for you, and happy to take any questions.
So on the conservation easement, does that allow public access?
It could. In this case, since the landowner wishes to still live out there, they don't prefer to have public access. But certainly you could, and we could in the future, and we don't have to rule it out. But right now, since they're living out there, they don't wish to have public access.
Because I know there's several different type of conservation easements and what's allowed and not allowed. That's what I was curious. Go.
And that was my question too, specifically related to the National Wildlife Foundation funding. I've seen other areas where we supported Columbia Land Trust or some other entities, but then when there was the federal funding tied to it, that was the caveat that said no public access and no hunting. And they had to stop allowing that because of that federal funding. So I was wondering what their policies were.
Yeah, for this grant, there's no specification about needing to allow or not allowing public access. Yeah.
Question.
What is the access to the area? Is it just private driveway? Or is there any county roads or?
Yeah, Middle Road runs mostly on the west edge of the property, since it's to the west of Pine Creek. Yeah, and the landowner's house is right on Middle Road. So you can, I guess, see onto the property pretty easily.
And the fund, set aside. Do you know much about that, Scott?
And thank you, commissioners. And thank you, Lisa. She scrambled fast to get this on the agenda and all the everything ready. So I really appreciate that kind of responsiveness from the fellow county workers. Yeah, I talked to Greg Gallagher, who he could feel free to comment if he wants, but he verified that we do have the 300,000 on an account. It was negotiated as part of the mitigation measures for the Lund Hill project and specifically set aside for mitigation activities.
Because I know a lot of the different projects have had these funds set aside. And I don't think there was any hard rule how
Right.
they're supposed to be used, or at least they weren't years ago.
But as Stephanie said, it's states as the county intent wants to use it. I do think the obvious intent is mitigation for the impacts of the Lund Hill on the wildlife areas.
What, something like this, does this affect property tax for the county? I mean, since it's just an easement, it probably doesn't affect.
It would be a value question for Billy, but I don't know.
It doesn't take it off the tax rolls.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, it's not like you
It
said,
doesn't make it exempt.
the purchase of the property, it's just the easement where they can break it down to sell.
If I can just interject, commissioners, the easements are tied to the deed. Yeah, so it's in perpetuity. So if the property is sold, the conservation easement goes with the deed. So yeah, it's not purchasing the property, but just the development rights.
My only concern about spending that money would be questions about fire mitigation surrounding those solar farms. Could that money be spent for brushing or vegetation or minimizing the impacts? The fire we had burnt right up to the fence line. And there was grasses inside that had to be fought pretty darn quickly to keep that from entering into the solar farm.
That's a good question. These dollars, my understanding, looking at the Lund Hill, these were specifically because of impacts on wildlife corridor, wildlife areas.
Yes.
And so to meet at least the spirit of it, they're intended to be for wildlife mitigation. So if we could somehow tie wildlife mitigation to fire concerns, the fire concerns have their own considerations.
Okay.
The decision.
Trying to look at the ladder. I understand the mitigation money. I understand that pretty well. I guess I'm more on the federal money that this would be a match for. Just understanding that I think is important for me. We're just able to purchase more
Yeah, exactly.
conservation with not any different regulations than the original funds.
Does Fish and Wildlife have fire mitigation going on in any of the properties in Klickitat County?
Any of our properties in Klickitat County? I mean, we have wildlife areas
Yes.
that are separate from this, that are not particularly close to this. And I suppose that's a topic that, those wildlife area managers are thinking about, of course, in forestry activities on those wildlife areas. But yeah, this is pretty far from those spots. Yeah. And in fact, that's why this is a little unique for us, in that we have such a large area in this county, right? Especially in the eastern part of the county, and it's all privately owned. So how do we make an impact, a positive impact on fish and wildlife and habitat in areas that are privately owned? Well, this is a way to do that.
Yeah. No, I was in a meeting yesterday where some of the WDFW is talking about some fire mitigation on. Yeah, go ahead. Sandra.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. With regard to the wildlife areas that we manage, we do active fuel reduction work on there. Given, I mean, DNR has identified that area as a high fire risk area. And so we work, like Stephanie mentioned, on several forestry projects. We just completed one actually to do fuel reductions on the wildlife areas. What's different with this proposal is that we will not own the property. And so we will just be ensuring that the conservation easement is followed. And obviously that hasn't been written yet. We have a template that we use, but those are things that we can, work with the landowner. There's a set template that with items that we would always use, but there are things that can be added as well in the discussions with the landowner. And then it would be our responsibility as the agency to make sure that the landowner is adhering to the easement. And so the fire reduction, I don't know if that can be a part of the conservation easement. We would have to have that discussion. But it wouldn't be us doing that, if that makes sense, given that we don't manage the property.
I'd say that's probably more out of the scope for the conservation easement.
Exactly. And like you said, the fact that these mitigation funds can go further by getting this National Fish and Wildlife Foundation funding, in that it would be $600,000 of conservation easement that we can pursue versus $300,000. So and we understand that it's going to take us some time, and the landowner also understands that it takes time and effort to pursue funding, but we're definitely committed to that. Especially, I mean, I think Stephanie showed on the slides, it's the deer that have collars on them are actually using the property that we're looking at. So it's just sort of an amazing story to see the proof on the ground, and that this drainage is just so important for this area. Hence the priority for us to pursue this with this landowner.
No, I understand the conservation easement. I understand trying to leverage it. How long do you feel if we even say go forward, we support this? How long do you think it's gonna take?
To complete the entire project?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good
2
question.
years? 3 years?
Yeah, the big funding pot that we can go for, that our agency goes for a lot, is RCO, Recreation Conservation Office. And I believe if we went through that, I think the end of 2027, does that sound right, Sandra, for that cycle to go through?
Yes, given the amounts that historically have come from the RCO, we could get it in one cycle to complete the acquisition of the conservation easement once we've done this first phase. So if we did this in fall of 25, let's say we close on this in 2026 spring, we will be in the next RCO grant cycle, and then we could ask for the remaining amount in that cycle. So hopefully it won't take 10 years, but usually it's a biennial cycle for RCO. So if we're not funded, we would have to try again. And that doesn't preclude, obviously, looking for other funding sources. Anyone who's interested and available. I know Stephanie has reached out to folks. We have had our ungulate section reach out to partners looking for opportunities.
Thank you.
The deadline was when? Thursday, Tuesday?
The deadline is on Thursday. Yeah, and we've been working on this for a while, and have been working with Scott to figure out, where the money is. And of course, the commissioners, all of you have changed. So sorry, we're here at the last minute, except for commissioners. Yeah. So that's why we're here at the last minute.
So with that short time frame, would there even be a chance to have that discussion with the landowner or to put something like that out there to have that conversation about fire mitigation?
I mean, I can call him right after this meeting, and see what he thinks about that. I don't know that there's honestly too much to do on that property in terms of fire mitigation. Most of it is, like I mentioned, Oregon white oak, ponderosa pine, and juniper, which are all pretty, fire resistant, type of vegetation. I don't think there's a ton of non-native grasses and things. Yeah, I can't think of anything quite off the top of my head that you would really want to focus on for fire mitigation on that property. And then, of course, yeah, part of it did already burn this summer. But
I'd say a lot of taller grass, depending what the spring's like.
Yeah.
Freeze down in the canyons.
Sure.
I would love to have that because it's probably a conversation where probably my guess would be the landowner would be like 100%, so one for wildlife to put some thought to that, but also to everyone surrounding the area. If every piece of property like this, if we don't consider that, it just keeps becoming a bigger and a bigger problem. And it's probably something that it's probably not a complicated contractual thing to include some verbiage for fuel reduction.
Sure.
So I'd love to see that you guys reach out and cover that because it's probably not a holdup for any of the stakeholders.
Yeah, I think we could talk about helping the landowner pursue funding, right? Because that costs money, and just having the conservation easement is one thing, and then doing work on their property is kind of separate, right? Because we're not intending to do any work on their property, but sure enough, yeah, there's lots of programs for fuels reduction and fire mitigation.
Yeah, I don't think we can, we'd have to check on that, but I don't know if we can require that in the conservation easement, but I think it's something that we can, like Stephanie said, talk to the landowner about, but it wouldn't be, I don't think it affects the decision whether or not to move forward with the grant application, because we'll be continuing to have those discussions with the landowner, whether it is possible in the conservation easement, I don't know. Or like Stephanie said, it's work outside just because it's a conservation value. But I don't think it affects whether or not we move forward with applying for the grant, whether we know that now, because the whole conservation easement is not written yet. This is a proposal to do so.
Well, and just to be really clear, the reason I brought up the fire mitigation was I wanted to hear that the language was specific for wildlife conservation, because I didn't want to divert funds that potentially could help protect that solar area if we could have done that with the fire departments or someone else.
Yeah, and thank you, Scott, for clarifying that it is for wildlife mitigation.
Michael.
Yes, thank you for having me. Could I get the host to unfreeze my camera, please?
Sounds like a personal problem.
Well, it says the host has got me locked out, so there we are. Thank you. Thanks for having us, and nice to meet you, Scott. Yeah, and nice to see all of you. I'd like to remind the commissioners that one of the slides that Stephanie showed, she talked about the 36 wind turbines on the property. And when we talk about fire management, as part of the wind facility permitting process or solar facility permitting, there's frequently a section that deals with vegetation management and fire control. It might be wise to contact not only the landowner, but Avangrid to integrate all of us on the same page about fire management in that landscape. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, any other questions?
No, that's got it.
What?
No, thank you for that, Mike.
What's the will of the board?
And we make a proposal on this?
Yeah, there's a letter that you're asking us to support.
Correct.
And is that the direction to utilize the funding for the conservation easement?
Right, that the mitigation funding, using that, yeah, to work on this project.
To utilize the Lund Hill mitigation fund of $300,000.
I guess before doing a proposal, the only question I have, are there in making this, I don't know how many funds is 300,000 the total number of mitigation funds that we have
For this project.
For Lund Hill.
for this project? Okay.
Yeah, the reason I said that, because I was involved with when the utility did their win, and the mitigation there was a little different, but it's kind of the same concept.
When I say,
Wildlife.
yeah, I'm sorry, excuse me. When I say this project, I don't mean the Fish and Wildlife Project. I mean Blunt Hill. That's how much they gave, contributed to mitigate their impacts. It's 300,000. That's the full amount we have in our account.
For wildlife.
And
For wildlife, right?
were there any other projects that you guys have looked at besides this one for use of those funds? Like, are we deciding this over others?
No.
I imagine you're coming before us because this is the number one or the only project that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really good question. No, we haven't come up with other projects, for the 300,000. How this project came about is, so I put out those GPS collars on the deer, right? And we've been chasing them around. And when they die, we go out and try to figure out why they died. And I was out there this fall with one of those, getting one of those collars from one of the deer that had died, and talked to this landowner. And they had said, yeah, we're thinking of selling. And I said, oh, that would be disappointing because the deer love your property. It's this beautiful intact area amongst all these developments that keep popping up. I said, would you consider a conservation easement instead of selling? And they said, yes, actually, we really like that idea. So it just kind of came about organically. And we've just been kind of pursuing it, right? Rolling the ball down the road. Of course, you know, if you all, I guess, feel like you don't support this project, and we can probably come up with another one, but I have to tell you that many of the properties out there are already leased for solar and wind development. Not to say that they're going to build those, but a lot of people have basically kind of like a 5-year lease to explore doing these types of projects. So it's pretty rare to find this much acreage that's not already leased. Built.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
And the proximity to Lund Hill of this proposed project, it's pretty close to the actual solar, to the project it's being mitigated for.
Yeah. Michael, you were going to chime in. Did you have something?
No. Oh.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
No, I don't believe in coincidences. So thank you for meeting the neighbors and going out and doing that.
Yeah, it's been a really, really fun project, and we've learned a ton. And it's just about finished right now, 4 years later. So if you all are interested, I can come back in a year with all our cool data and show you some maps.
Well, I propose that we write a letter to support this project. Or do I need to state the actual project?
The Lund Hill mitigation funds.
Proposal
For the Pine Creek Conservation Easement using the Lund Hill, maybe?
Pine Creek.
Why don't you do it, Lori? I don't have that in front. It's not on my thing.
I have the Pine Creek Conservation.
I would make a motion that we support the Pine Creek Conservation easement using the Lund Hill Conservation.
I second the motion.
Been moved and second, open for discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And I'm not doing fire mitigation out on the Glenwood Highway right now either.
I'm gonna run in my office.
I
See
need
you
to,
in the fall for pheasants.
let's take a 10-minute recess.
Oh, thank you. I needed to get some notes.
All right. 2:15. Oh, meeting back. Okay, next item is following up on unfinished business and some of our discussion we had last.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Sorry, I'm gonna lose my voice. So at the workshop, you asked, for the treasurer and the auditor to go over the fiscal manager job description and, make some proposed changes to it and bring that back to you for discussion. We did that. We spent a couple hours, right after the workshop and then the various emails, as we worked through it. And I first would like to say I appreciated their time on such short notice to work through their lunch and, not that they take lunches anyway, but to work through their day to get this done. And so I have emailed you a copy. I have a copy for you, at least that I'll give you, and gave you a paper copy. So we would open it up to you. We did propose a couple more changes that just mentioned to you on the third page under desired skills. Or the first part of the second page. We propose to take out the first and third bullet points.
Advanced degree
Right.
in economics,
Yeah, we don't need an advanced, we don't need a master's degree.
and ability to research analyze.
Yeah, I mean, the budget is a big. Such a crossover between this position and the statutory requirements of the auditor. That I'm not sure that they need to be focused on trying to find a different way to budget, so to speak. So we could leave it in there, but we just thought to be consistent with the other changes, we would take it out. Or propose to take it. And I think you see, basically starts with the first change in fiscal to budget. It kind of has the effect of focusing the job down to budget. And then I think as you go through it, you'll see the changes that we made. We included one with the assessor, and I think one of Greg, I think, talked to the assessor, and she was okay with that change. That's just a case of capturing what's actually done and putting it in the job description. Finance committee and some other duties. We just, the three of us, look for ways to focus the job and strengthen the relationships, which I think we all agreed was important.
You know, there's talking points about.
You want to turn your.
There's talking points about it below, but in the basic job purpose function, it doesn't mention specifically working with the board. It just only says all elected officials. It manager reports to director of HR and administrative services and maintains a close working relationship with county auditor, treasurer, and all elected officials. But the specific work is with the Board of County Commissioners. So can we change that sentence a little bit to
Which
not,
one?
What is,
so they know when they're looking at the application, they're gonna work with
Oh,
us
the basic.
specifically.
Yes, of course.
budget development process according to the county policies and direction of the BOCC.
And that's just a summary statement, and we can make that change easily. If you look at the essential duties
Yeah.
of the job, which is the legal reason the job exists, the
Yeah.
OCC is mentioned.
Then it's in there several times, but just in the headline, if they're reading it, I'd like people to know they're gonna work with the BOCs.
Fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do. Yeah, okay with that. I don't. I appreciate all the work you did. Actually, it's a lot easier for me to pronounce budget manager. It's whatever the title may be, it's what the purpose of the position is.
So I think in summary, we tried to capture what we heard at the workshop, what we've experienced over the last 3 or 4 years. with the transition from someone who'd done it for 20-some years to Jen, who's done a very good job for the last 3 or 4 years to the next iteration of the job. And so I think we tried to capture that in here. Like, it was more evolution than revolution, I think, when you look at it. But
And I like, removing some of the financial stuff up above and then putting it down under additional job duties, a member of the finance. Citizen support team. So that's simple, I said, I think.
Heather and Greg, you guys feel really good about?
Yeah.
No big compromises. You had to.
You didn't have to pull the bat out and swing or.
I didn't. I didn't have to throw my shoes or anything.
I just had to surrender.
You're weird.
Yeah, because I could chime in on some of this stuff, but I mean, mainly you guys have been dealing with this and understand that position and the needs. So that's what mainly.
Well, and what I mentioned,
Guys, my decision is that you guys, that it has your thumbs up and you like crazy.
Yeah.
and I think if you're okay with this is good enough to post the position. This is what we need. I would strongly recommend, I mentioned this to Commissioner Zolman the other day, that once you have the position filled, you have the person on board and you know what their skill sets are. And then there should be another meeting, maybe at a workshop, to fine tune the working order of the department and the function. And so I think there can be further discussions down the road. It shouldn't be a one.
I don't want that to hold us back to
No.
move forward,
Right.
get the job posted.
It shouldn't be one and done, but it should be later on in the process.
And then always will get massaged down the road. Too, so. I want to compliment the job everybody had done on this, just a lot of things I had marked up, you cleaned it up and then some. So it works for me. Okay, Todd?
Yeah, and was Jen involved in this?
No, it was just the three of us. Jen and I talked about it before, but it was just the three of us. I went over these changes with her afterwards, as I was giving the copies to you, but she wasn't at that for initial meeting.
Yeah. Oh, I thought we had a good discussion last week.
Yeah.
Good communication. And I think we got a good work product here.
So good to proceed.
Let's post it.
I would say we're good to move forward.
So the second part of that is, Casey and I talked about it. I think, pardon the fishing analysis, I think we want to throw the biggest net we can. And using Profman, which is not inexpensive, it's about $7,500. They're a professional recruiting firm. We've used them. We used it for the jail administrator. We used it for the planning director. I think it's worth the money. They have a much bigger scope of people to contact and get the word out through multiple different avenues in addition to those we have. And so I would recommend it.
Very well in last year.
I have drafted, she's already sent me a contract, so if you approve it, I'll just send it to the PA and fairly quickly we can get that moving forward if you're in agreement with it. We would need a supplemental, we didn't budget $7,500 for the cost of this, but it's up to you.
How long it takes to fill the position. Yeah. I don't have a problem in that direction. I understand how sometimes difficult. Find the right people.
Was that out of your wages and benefits or Greg's? Or Rob's?
Well, this was nice. Now we're doing.
I believe,
I just found some money.
I believe that's coming out of the jail.
I was okay with it. No. Yeah. behalf of the group, we
Yeah.
declined that.
You'll be surprised when she sees her last couple.
There's stories when you ask who's it's.
So we're good to proceed with Brockman as well. Just want to make sure everyone. Okay, all right. Anything else at this point?
Go forth and do good.
We have plenty of time. It'll be out there about a month typically, so we have time to talk about the interview panel, the questions.
Yeah.
Maybe even have another discussion. It's always good to kind of talk about what you're looking for, so before you get to the interviews and start screening out the applications. So if not,
On top of mind is the right person with the right attitude. It just. I can work with everyone.
We've done really well the last year.
yeah.
Yeah, you
No,
hired
that was
some good-
fast. I appreciate
You've hired some good employees. You really have.
Okay. I think we're done. They're good.
Thanks again,
I
Heather.
want to thank Greg and Heather again for, they went right up there. And spent
And Greg,
a couple
for
hours.
your input and taking time now.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a good process. Miscellaneous reports, comments. No,
Kind of went through some of those. this
yeah,
morning.
we did quite a bit before.
Yeah.
No executive session today.
Lots of things to sign.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, I did go to the EMS meeting last Tuesday, I believe. It was really a good meeting. I didn't realize it's held here at Route 7.
Yeah, I met him today, very nice.
Yes, really.
Yeah, and
they're-
he invited everybody else out to visit too,
Yeah,
when we can.
they will be sending us a letter because they have 2 positions that are open. That are filled, but they didn't realize they needed to have those confirmed, so they
And
sending us that.
in my quest of learning curve on probation services, I was over in the courthouse yesterday and had about 10 minutes early, so I just stopped by juvenile probation and visited, and they were thrilled. You have to come by and visit with them. They're very passionate about their jobs. It was really interesting to hear how their life is going. Their challenges. They said they are not overwhelmed. They're not looking at this time to fill anything or for extra help. They said they're actually down a few cases, but what they're noticing is many of their cases are tending more towards mental health. And so that leads them to more coordination with Aaron and what our future looks like. And they also said they'd be interested in sitting down at like a round table for what does it look like for criminal justice going forward. Because it's gonna be a lot on our budgets. The transition.
Yes.
So after we get done with budget workshops. Someday keeping it on our schedule that we meet with the jail and the probation people and judges, anybody that'd like to be involved in that conversation. I think it'd be an interesting conversation.
Well, and I
to see what their world is.
would like to step out. I know the motion last week was to bring adult back up next week, I hope. Get out, educate.
Visit
Decision
judges.
making. Yeah.
Visit with city, visit with judges, what their take is.
Do either of y'all know how our county looks as far as number of people in the jail compared to the size of our county? I mean, I've heard lots of figures, but I don't have it in my head as far as like, are there compared to our population, or they're percentage wise, are there more or less than there was 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or number of people in?
I would say we're average from everything we were looking at before, working on the jail situation. It's a hard concoction because many people combine their jails. There's a lot of counties that combine their jails, so it's hard to tell.
And too, when I was here before, we rented jail space.
Yeah.
The Sherman County. other counties. But then once Northport
Yeah,
went in place, that kind of changed. But we did
and in,
rent a lot of additional space for additional revenues.
and in the money calculation, something was brought back up to me the other day that made it a lot more clear. I'd heard it before, but I hadn't really landed on it. If there's a change in probation services where choices have to be made, hard choices have to be made, there will be cases that the judges don't feel they can release, and they will have to remand them to the jail. And if that happens, they are a client of that city still, even though they're not paying probation service, then they're paying for the jail service. So one way or another, all this math comes back around. It's all depending on the service that we're going to.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Right, is there a motion to recess? A motion to recess till Thursday morning at 9:30?
Yes, I'll make a motion to recess until 9:30 Thursday morning for workshop.
I second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're now recessed.